This episode of the Ortho Show is brought to you by Veradigm. Some healthcare technology companies deliver clinical data for biopharma and health plans. Some help turn that data into insights. Others serve healthcare providers directly by providing point-of-care clinical software. Only Veradigm does it all. That unique combination added to our nationwide scale is why so many leading healthcare companies choose to be a part of the Veradigm network, working together with Veradigm to transform healthcare insightfully. Whether you're a healthcare provider, patient, biopharma company, or payer, check out www.veradigm.com. That's www.veradigm.com to learn how Veradigm can help you too.
This is an absolute kick-ass episode of the Ortho Show podcast. We're bringing on Charlie DeCook. For those that don't know him, Charlie is the 12 by 12 guy. Literally, he can do 12 joint replacements by noon. He is the master of efficiency. He's almost like an orthopedic philosopher. He has quotes from all different things. He compares surgeons to athletes and just time efficiency and transparency. He has a really engaging, interesting philosophy on how operating rooms should be run. You are absolutely going to love this episode, regardless of who you are. Dr. Scott Sigman, hashtag follow the fro.
From medical media, this is The Ortho Show.
Hello world, Dr. Scott Sigman. Yes, your favorite opioid-sparing orthopedic surgeon here for another episode of the Ortho Show podcast, where we bring you the best of the best. We are the voice of orthopedics. We have the one and only Charlie DeCook here today. We are at the Ortho Summit meeting, our favorite meeting of the year for multi-specialty. Charlie is an orthopedic surgeon who specializes in hip and knee arthroplasty in private practice in Atlanta at the Total Joint Specialist. And dude, that's all you guys do is total joints. Charlie, what a pleasure it is to have you on.
Scott, you are so awesome. I've been so excited. I've been watching your podcast forever and super excited to be with you this morning.
Well, we tagged you down, man. It wasn't easy. We had to put some grappling hooks out there. We had to get some, but you made it. We appreciate it. So happy to have you here.
I'm glad you found my agent. It's
yeah, there,
perfect.
exactly. That's the only way we're getting you here. So we're going to get into the 12 by 12, which is like, I don't know if it's your actual tagline, but, what Dr. DeCook does so well is incredibly efficiencies in the operating room. We're going to get there. I love your tagline: disrupt, innovate, believe, do, repeat. Great stuff.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I think this is the fun thing about being in orthopedics. I actually was a family practice doctor before. Jump into orthopedics. I saw orthopedics as a super awesome way of being able to really take that creative juice and start innovating in a new space. And orthopedics for me has been that.
That's so cool. I did not know that. We did our research on you. We sort of got things organized late. But so we always like to start at the beginning. When and where? Where were you born? What's the family? When did you think about medicine? That sort of thing.
Yeah. So I actually was born in North Carolina at Fort Bragg. My dad was in the military, so I spent some time there, but really grew up in Chicago. So I'm a Chicago guy through and through. Go Cubbies. But married a girl from Georgia, so I've been in Atlanta for 14 years, and really been enjoying the South and all the culture that brings.
All right, so rush for medical school in Chicago, and so then you do a residency in family practice immediately after?
Yeah, so I go into Rush thinking, man, I'm definitely doing orthopedics, and no offense to the Rush guys, but at the time I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are the biggest. So I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. And now they're all my buddies,
I was going to say, dude,
guys, right?
I'll get Brian out right. Is Brian going to walk by right now or no?
He may well be. But they're all fantastic now. But at the time, it just threw me off. I thought, I don't know if I'm going to be the surgeon. So I'm like, maybe I'll do family practice, sports medicine. Maybe I'll do that route. And then quickly realized that I missed the operating room.
Yeah, you saw the light, right? I mean, that's what it's about, orthopedic surgery. So you do your residency at Wake Forest?
That's right. Gary Paling was our chairman at the time. Had some great mentors, David Martin, who's now in ABOS, others. It was a fantastic training. They got a great program there still today.
So why joint replacement? Walk me through that. Where did that happen? When did that bell go off for you?
I think for me, I've always, for me, it's just exposing that joint, being able to see what I need to see. I always thought, sports surgery is a little bit of sham surgery. So
We are the cool guys in orthopedics, for the record. But,
you are cool, but then you also have to give up your Friday nights. So maybe
true.
that's what it was.
That's exactly right. Friday night football, Friday night lights. No, so all right, but anyway, so it's joint replacement, and you go to the Anderson Clinic for your fellowship.
Yeah, be able to train with Charlie and Jerry Ng was just a fantastic thing. Andy was there at the time. Bill Hamilton had just started. Kevin Fricka was there at the time, but they've continued to maintain an unbelievable fellowship. So it was a great year for me. Obviously, hanging out in D.C. was great. I had a big family at the time already, so I had 5 kids. So they actually stayed back in Georgia at the time. So I got to be by myself, kind of bacheloring it. But with 5 kids, I did a lot of moonlighting. So did a lot of moonlighting during fellowship. But it was a great year for me and hanging out in D.C.
So it was destined you're going back to Georgia, right?
Sure.
At that point. So
yeah.
You started off in private practice. You basically stayed in private practice, throughout your career. So what I want to talk about, which you're sort of, you're like, I was at your talk yesterday. It was fantastic, and you're like an orthopedic philosopher. I love the fact that you're quoting, incredible people. You have these great vignettes and videos that you pull from, that you draw from, and you use the experiences of people outside of orthopedics to be able to share your ideas and concepts. Where the assembly line, Ford, Tesla. So just walk me through your thought process as to how you pulled these ideas and brought them into what we've been doing.
Yeah, I love
for
it.
The same
I
way.
love it. Well, I think orthopedics is just too damn boring right now. I mean, if we just talk about the traditional journals and research and all this data, to me that was a little bit too boring. I wanted to take a little different spin on orthopedics. So, yeah, I mean, just like you, I read a book a week about, different things, business, other things. I think if you take a different perspective and bring a different industry into orthopedics, I think you get a different view of orthopedics. So I wanted to do that, obviously, in something that affects all of us, which is inefficiency and how sucky the hospitals are. So I wanted to be able to change that, right? And, the thing that always hits home to me is when surgeons come and watch and their teams come and watch our show, the thing that they always are amazed by is the culture, right? And surgeons are so frustrated by this. They do 3 or 4 cases. They're like, oh, gosh, it's dragging along. We don't realize as surgeons how little time we're actually operating of our total week, right? You got 7 days in a week. We're actually operating, I don't know, maybe 10 hours total of the whole week. And that's frustrating because that's what we love doing. We were born to do this. We were born to operate. And if we're in inefficient systems, we're not going to operate.
Yeah, no, when I love, sort of your concepts and ideas. It really hasn't changed very much for decades. We kind of do the same thing, right? Technology is changing all around us, our smartphones, all the things that we do in our daily lives, but it really hasn't moved to the operating room. So,
yeah.
I want to go through some of the steps and the thoughts, like I love you show the video of Michael Jordan on the greatest shot in basketball, and you compare, athletes and surgeons and why that is. Walk us through why you see a comparison there.
Yeah, there's a huge comparison. We call it the surgical zone, right? So athletes talk about being unconscious or in the zone or runner's high. It's the surgeon flow that you feel when you're operating, right? Like everything seems to be going right. You're not really thinking about it. It's just like automatic, like you're in total control of the situation. And the only way you can do that is if you have the right conditions to be able to do that, right? And the conditions have to be, you have to have the same team, you have to do the same steps in the procedure, right? You have to have those controlled variables in place. And when you do that, suddenly it's like, man, this the whole day's flowing, right?
It's automatic.
Just like bam, bam, bam.
It's automatic.
It's automatic.
That's right. You're not thinking about it. Michael Jordan wasn't, it's 20 feet with an angle of 30 degrees, and I'm going to throw the ball up and with this velocity. You just do it.
That's exactly right. People think about surgery and thinking. I always joke with my fellows that you shouldn't be thinking in the operating room. Thinking should be happening before the operating room. Everything else should just be automatic. You should, and I think that's what the appeal of, to be honest with you, robots is now. If you think a lot of these robotic knee surgeons, right? Listen, they don't really like the Mako robot. I mean, it's total bullshit. It's slow. It's all the rest. And no offense to all you Stryker
Yeah,
guys.
I don't think we're going to get a Stryker sponsor on this one, but we're good.
We'll bring it to Depew and Zimmer, too. All these bogus first-generation robots, the real appeal to them is the planning associated with it. And
Yes.
that means the surgeon doesn't have to really think about it. They know that, listen, my Mako product specialist or my rep is going to dial in the numbers, and then it's just going to carry out the plan, right? So that's the real appeal, is the automation, right? So that's what we really want to go to as surgeons, is automate what we do in the operating room.
Smarter, faster, better. And the smarter part is happening before you get to the operating room.
Exactly. I love it. If you're thinking, you're dead, right? There's a famous Top Gun quote, right? You know, Kelly McGillis
The
is in
old
there.
Top Gun, not the new Top Gun.
Yeah,
Let's
the
be clear
real
about
Top Gun,
that.
the real
Okay,
Top
good.
Gun.
Just making sure.
The first one. You know, if you think, you're dead. And same thing in the operating room. And you see a lot of surgeons think about this. And one of the ideas of thinking in the operating room is this idea of cognitive switching. Cognitive switching is a very simple idea, which is, listen, we're focused on a particular task and we can only focus on one thing, right? And we have to switch from that particular focus to the next thing, right? And by doing that, we lose focus and we have to switch and reorient and focus again. And that cognitive switching happens thousands of times during the case, right? It's not just about interruptions. It's about really having to maintain this flow of the scrub tech giving the exact right instrument in the right place in your hand, right? And if any of that's off a little bit, I have to stop, think, reorient, and go at it again. So limiting the amount of cognitive switching, I think, is going to be key.
I mean, I love that. Like, there's nothing better than working with a scrub tech who knows the operation as well as you, and literally there does not need to be a single verbal communication with that scrub tech. They are in concert with you, and that instrument is in your hand before having to ask for it.
Love it, love it. You know, people always ask about communication in the OR. I think communication is totally overrated. There should be you don't have to have any communication. If your staff knows you and knows what you do, you should be talking about politics or sports or the weather, or anything but what the next step is, because your team needs to be locked into what you do.
Oh, I love it. Now, do you listen to music in the operating room?
Love it.
Okay.
I love it. In fact,
What
when
do you got?
when I'm starting to lose focus, when I hear a lot of people talk in the background, or something's not going right, or, you know, I screwed up a step or something, I crank up the music. For me, that helps me to super narrow in and focus even more. Probably because I have all these kids. I'm used
So what do
to
you
all
got,
the
like
noise.
Bieber? You got Justin Bieber going on there?
Oof,
Come
man.
on. He's got the Georgia Pine song or whatever the hell that thing is. You're on that.
My go-to when I really need it is some hard rock, maybe some classic rock is my go-to.
Love it.
Country when I'm just chill, just because I'm in the South now, so I like my country now. So you know, you could set your mood. It's great. If the staff knows that I'm, you know, being a little grumpy, they'll change the music up so they know my mood and how to play with it based on the music.
I love it. So time's not important to you at all.
Not really. You know, I'm not thinking about time at all during the procedure, right? People think about, well, I'm always like pushing people on time. But actually, you don't do anything. You let time speak for itself. So in our operating room, we have time up on the board. It's transparent, but I'm not saying it. Like, they know that there's certain expectations, right? I think the key thing is Parkinson's Law. And Parkinson's Law, for those of you who don't know, the basic principle is, listen, if you give someone a task and give them a certain deadline, they're going to take that whole deadline to do it, right? So it's like the homework you did in third grade, right? If you gave 48 hours to do it, you're going to take all 48 hours to do it, right? Same thing for your scrub tech opening. If you don't give them a deadline, if you don't give them an expectation, they're going to take as long as they need to do that, right? But for us, we have expectations. Hey, you need to be open and ready in 8 minutes, right? You need to be in the room to cut in 8 minutes. So those are all expectations that we have set, but I'm not saying it, right? The key thing is with time transparency is you can't be the asshole surgeon that's telling people what to do, right? That can no longer be the case. You may be frustrated by how inefficient your hospital, your ASC is, but you can't be the one barking the orders. You have to let data and time say it for you.
And the transparency, I mean, it's there, right? I mean, you can see it. I love that.
Yeah.
You've got clocks everywhere. Everybody knows, you know, the time frame in which they're working. And the numbers do not lie at the end of the day, right? You can't sit there and say, oh, I'm pretty sure I did it in 8 minutes when you look at the clock and it was 15.
That's exactly right. We have accountability to all that. So we get monthly emails to all the staff and surgeons. So the surgeons know how they match up versus other surgeons. The staff knows how they match up. Everyone knows. And comparison works, right? I mean, we don't breed a negative culture, but we breed a culture of competitiveness, right? We all want to do better, and we don't pay our staff more. Oftentimes, when groups come to watch, they're like, oh my gosh, what are you paying these folks? Like, they're unbelievable. I tell you what.
You do pay them.
We do actually pay them.
Okay,
yeah,
that's good. I think
if
that's
there's
important.
a chance not to, I don't think I would. I'm pretty darn cheap. But that being said, we pay them well, but we're not incentivizing them to do a certain number of cases. I think that actually takes away from the culture. Our culture is one, we're proud of what we do, right? We're proud of the accomplishments we do, and they're proud to be a part of it. So I think that's the major drive.
Well, and also, I mean, if I'm working there and, there's doctors from all over the world that come and watch you and observe you, and then not just that, but how about let's get, let's heal these 12 people, and let's be done by 2.
Yes.
Right? And then
Great
we're going to
point.
go home, and
Love
we're
it.
going to enjoy our family and be a part of what we do.
Love it. The funny thing is, in our surgery center, our staff actually complains when we have a slow surgeon. And to be fair to all our surgeons at our practice, we don't have any slow surgeons, but, there's a range, and they complain about the slow surgeons because they want to be done. They want to get moving. They want to get done with the day. So to your point, absolutely, we need to rest and relax, and we all do.
Yeah,
right?
You got to have the time away.
Yeah.
One of the things about the efficiency of where you are in your practice with your ASC is that all you do is joint replacements at your ASC.
Yeah.
You do not have the cardiac nurse rolling in because somebody was on call and called in sick. It's like these are people that are super specialized and trained in what they do.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So this idea of subspecialization is so important. And I think this is where joints are going, right? And that is, we have been, as orthopedic surgeons, we have become more and more specialized with time, right? So, I may just do right total knees, or somebody may do a left uni, right? That may be their specialty. I'm joking a little
Healer
bit.
of knees and shoulders, left and right, by the way. That's
left
my
and
tagline.
right there. I love it.
All right,
left
good.
and right. But, the problem is we're operating in facilities that are not specialized. We're operating in hospitals that do cardiac and OB and general surgery. And the problem with that is then we're dealing with staff that frankly know a little bit of everything, and they're not very good at anything, right? So to marry a subspecialized surgeon with a subspecialized place is, we think, the future. So our group is called Total Joint Specialists. We're in Atlanta. We've got 16 joint surgeons in our group, and we don't want anything but joint surgeons. And the reason why is because we can stay super focused on that.
Do you all
Our
wear blue
staff
sport
do.
coats and khaki pants?
No, those are sports guys. I thought it was a sports thing.
That's the ACUS uniform. A blue sport coat with khaki pants with a white shirt with a red tie.
We got a range. We got a range of completely sloppy to suits every day in the office. We got a total range.
I love it. So where was I going to go next? So we were talking about efficiencies. Now, when I think of Charlie DeCook and I think of the operating room, I think of business efficiencies, assembly lines. Like my oldest is a Six Sigma black belt, right? So I'm thinking, like, how are you logistically taking aspects of other businesses and bringing them to the operating room?
Love it. The book you got to read is The Machine That Changed the World, and that's all about Tachi Ono and how he developed TPS, which is a Toyota production system, right? And he brought that along with that and mass production from Henry Ford, right? You can get all these unbelievable insights, one of which is parallel task, right? So parallel task is a concept that instead of doing things in series, meaning do one step, call for the next step, do the next step, you got to stop that, right? So you see that in operating rooms all over the place, right? They call for moving turnover help. You hear it overhead. Call for second time overhead, moving and turnover. The problem is if you do all these things in series, they add up. There's all this waste associated with that. So if you can do them all in parallel, that's the key to it all.
Yeah, I love it. Like, I watch a video of the everybody scurrying around in the. You speed it up a little bit to make it look a little faster, but I still love it. But you've got people cleaning as the surgery's going on, right? Why are we waiting to clean the operating room? That stuff's already in the trash. Get it out of here.
Exactly.
Right? And so that's happening simultaneously. Somebody's moving the next. In like one of my other favorite pictures is the empty holding room bed, right? It's like, what's wrong with this picture? There's no patient in it.
And we've all been frustrated by that, right? Like, okay, a lot of us have 2 rooms. Like, okay, why is the next patient not back? You know, why did you not bring them back? And we always blame anesthesia for that, but 9 times out of 10, it's not. You know, it's actually something else. The nurse didn't go to get them, or the circulator or the scrub said, oh, don't go get them, I'm not ready in that room yet. Or frankly, you as a surgeon don't know when to call to bring that next patient back. That's what we see a ton of is, believe it or not, that transparency that we want for everyone else is pretty bad for us surgeons. Like, it's interesting when I ask surgeons, you set goals for how long this case is going to take you? They're like, no, like that's foreign to them. Like, I just want to do a good case, right? Perfect. I love that. I want to do good surgery too, and I'm proud of what I do in quality. But you need to actually like set a goal, like, okay, standard knee, like skin, cutting to close, you know, what do you want it to be?
It's the same thing every time. It should be within like a couple percentage points, right?
Yeah, I mean, people have these intricate scales where they say, well, this one's a little bit higher, they're a little fatter, so I'm going to give an extra 4 minutes for this. I mean, there's some fancy ways to do this, but to your point, I think the more of these you do, the less that outside stuff doesn't make that much of a difference. Frankly, if I have a 20-degree varus knee, that may take me an extra minute and a half, maybe. It's not going to take me that much longer. The more we do these, the more we do the steps over and over, that varus deformity, that big flexion contracture is not really going to add much time.
You know, it's not for everybody. I mean, I do believe that you have to have the surgeon that likes to think about efficiency, right? There are some doctors that like to go from A to B. They go from B to C, but then they go back to B, right? There's not a lot of progression that's happening. So having efficient surgeons, I think your anesthesia team needs to be dialed into what you're doing, right? It can't be an independent thought process. It's a team approach. All of those aspects that are there. One of your other favorite comments is, you know, you love sterile processing, right? SPDs suck, right? I mean, that's like they're off in the wilderness somewhere. They're not part of what's happening, but yet it's so important.
I think there's no way that we're going to let SPDs continue as they currently are, right? I mean,
sterile processing for Judy.
Processing is by far such an antiquated way to do it. We need to put this in specialized hands. It needs to be off-site, and we're seeing that, and I think we're going to drive for that. Not only in the hospitals, but in ASCs as well. When you're considering forming your ASC, you should think about doing off-site sterilization because, frankly, in one of our surgery centers, like half the time is spent with sterile processing. I mean, we're paying these staff lots of money, and half the time they're like worried about sterile processing things. That shouldn't be the case anymore.
We just did the presentation yesterday. I don't want to name the hospital. I mean, you wouldn't have a problem doing it, but I'm going to hold back. But literally, was it like 15% of their trays were contaminated? There were holes in the paper. I'm like, how is that even remotely possible?
And you saw everybody in the room kind of
shaking their head because they've all lived through it before. They know exactly what it is.
So we definitely have to fix that system. And, you know, getting back to this idea of, well, not all surgeons want to be efficient. I think that's absolutely true. But I think all surgeons want to have a standardized way of doing it and better quality. And for us, we never pushed time and being fast. We didn't even push efficiency. We pushed the process.
I like that.
Right?
Because you can't be fast. Fast is a negative connotation. You're skipping steps. You're not doing it the right way.
So we're not trying to be fast. We're just trying to change that process over and over and over again. One of the principles is work breakdown. So this idea of work breakdown structure is, listen, you try and take things like culture or anesthesia or turnover, those things are too big to fix. You need to break them down into individual parts and the individual actions. Those are the things that you can work on, that you can fix, right? Because everyone says, well, how do I fix my culture? Well, you don't fix your culture. You fix one individual little process and then move on to the next little process, right? So it's not about efficiency. It's not about being fast. It's about fixing your process.
Chanel, can you get me the CEO of Delta, please? Because, you know, as much as the airlines used to be pretty good at this, I'm like, we're going to have Charlie DeCook come in as a special consultant to Delta, and we're going to fix all of the airline problems across the country. What do you think?
Call Ed Bastian. I'm ready. I'm going to give him some advice.
All right, it's Ed Bastian. We knew the answer. I love it. Listen, Charlie, what a great story. I love your enthusiasm. You think outside the box. You're a great persona. We all love listening to you. We're going to continue to love listening to you. So awesome that we were able to share your story here on The Ortho Show.
Scott, congratulations to you on The Ortho Show. What an unbelievable podcast. We're excited to keep following with you.
The voice of orthopedics with amazing orthopedic surgeons around the world like Charlie DeCook. Dr. Scott Sigman, #FollowTheFro, host of The Ortho Show. Till next time.